So whenever you make a form with your Google Forms, you have a variety of different types of questions that you can create. And so we're going to take a look at all the different kinds and how they might work. 'Cause it's important to pick the right one for what you're trying to accomplish. So let's jump in, and I will go ahead and create a brand new form just to start from scratch here. I'll just call this, I don't know, all the questions. Okay, so first one. Right here, it starts out as a multiple choice question. It's just the most common kind of question that you might be asking, so they kind of just default you that way. And one neat thing here, even before I start clicking on that drop down to choose different question types, depending on what I type in, it will actually change this automatically as I'm typing my question, trying to guess what sort of question I want to use. So if I were to ask for the student's name here, I'm going to put in your name. And immediately, there we go. It immediately switched to a short answer because it just understood that it's going to need that based on what I just asked. So when I click the drop-down list, that is in fact the first type of question that you can create in here. Let's see if I can trigger a paragraph question. I'm going to add a question with my little toolbar here. Tell me about your day. Good. And that, okay, so that language was enough to make it realize I needed more than a word or two. And it kicked into the paragraph option. So it's just a longer text box, really. If I were to preview this right now, I get a short little text box for the first one, I get a longer one for this guy. And if I were to type a lot, it's just going to run on. And for the paragraph answer, if I type and hit the end, yeah, it's going to wrap. So it presumes I'm typing a lot on that paragraph answer option. It's just going to keep giving me room. I'm going to close that. Don't need it. Go away. There we go. Next question type, I'm just going to add another one, is of course multiple choice. So if I was going to ask something like let's see, what is your favorite color? I do want multiple choice, and I'm going to give it some colors: green, red, blue, and I'm just hitting enter here as I type in these options. And I gotta keep pink in there or my daughter will kill me. Okay, be the right answer every time. So I can do multiple choice that way. I can afterwards go oops and switch it to one of these other options if I wanted to. So if I realized partway through I want to allow them to choose more than one color, I could switch it to checkboxes. And that's the fundamental difference between a multiple choice and the checkbox answer. With multiple choice, I can only choose one of these potential responses, whereas with the checkboxes, I can go tick, 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 and actually submit multiple potential answers. So depending on what you're asking, you're going to have to think about it and decide what is the best option between these two. The third one is functionally just like multiple choice. The difference is that when I'm creating this and I go look at that, it will now be this drop-down list rather than a vertical list there for me to just choose from. So realistically there, I'm going to choose between multiple choice and drop-down list based on the amount of options I'm giving someone. So if I'm giving you just a handful, we'll say 5, then multiple choice is going to be just fine. It's not going to take up too much space on screen. But if I'm asking you something like, what school are you at? And in our board, we've got over 50 buildings that you might be coming from. That's where I'm going to use a drop-down list so that you don't have to scroll up and down 50 names trying to find it. They're just going to be in one nice tight little drop-down. The next one here, I'll go ahead and add another question, is file upload. So with file upload, it lets you know here that it's going to allow people to actually answer your question by uploading a file. So this is the kind of thing where, submit your project or submit your poster or submit your resume, anything like that that you want people to actually be giving you a file, that's what this is going to do. So it says files will be uploaded to the form owner's Google Drive, which means I get them. So you don't want to do this in a shared drive. You can't, well, in fact, I don't believe you can do it in a shared drive. What you have to do is keep this in your drive, and it's going to make a folder there for all the files that people upload for you. I'm going to say continue. And I can be asking for, I don't know, upload your, maybe we're doing a big infographic kind of project. Upload your poster, I'll call it. Now, I do have the option here of allowing only very specific types of files. So I can toggle that on. And at that point, I have to tick off what kinds of files I'm going to allow here. So if I knew, again, this was a infographic and I told all the kids I want you to use Google Drawings, then I could check that off and say I only want those drawings files, potentially. Maybe I told them make it a drawing file and then save it as an image because you're going to use that when you put it into slides or you put it into a document or you print it off. So maybe I only want the image files to make sure that they actually did complete that step and download it as an actual image. So depending on what instructions I've given them, I can choose to be really specific there, or I could just say, you know what, I'm going to wait and see what they give me. It doesn't matter. Anything works, and then just leave that alone and they'll upload whatever they can. I can decide what the maximum number of files will be. So if I only want one submission, I can leave that at one. And if I want to potentially give them 5 or even 10, I can bump that up. But those are my three choices here, 1, 5, and 10. The maximum file size, I get a little range here as well. Ooh, I think they've increased it. 10 gig is pretty huge, especially for if you're asking for maybe video submissions, that would make sense. But for images and documents and things, getting into this 1 and 10 gigabyte range is pretty big. But you can do it if you want to. You can limit them. And it lets you know that this form can accept up to 1 gigabyte of files. So the fact that it's giving you 10 is a bit strange, but we could click change and dig into that and see what's going on. But it's highly unlikely you would need files that are quite that big. Where it says view folder here, that is for me as the owner of the form. I can click on that and it's going to show me the folder where all these are being dropped. So I was in my example files folder when I created this form. So the form lives there. But because I'm using one of these file upload questions, it's going to create a brand new folder inside that for all the submissions to land. Then they're not getting mixed in with whatever other files I might have in there. So that's a good one to have in there for sure, for that kind of stuff, if you need to be able to upload things. Now, next question after uploading is these linear scale options. So the linear scale, the first one's a really simple one. You could just say, you know, how's your day going? Day going. Oh, spell properly. There we go. Linear scale. I could say from 0 or 1, whatever I want this to start out as, and I could go 1 to 5, or I could give them up to 1 to 10 is my biggest range. So I'm going to say the 1 is, you know, not so good, and 10 would be awesome. And that way they have the choice there when I pop back over to my visual side here and take a look. They're going to get this nice option to just say, oh, I'm having an 8 today. This is a good one. And then submit. Or a 2 and submit. Now, because it's not checkboxes, it's much like the multiple choice option that way. I can only pick one. If I close that and add another one here, after linear scale is the multiple choice grid. So these ones get a bit wonky. They've done a better job more recently of laying it out in such a way so that you can actually see how this is going to behave. Because when you type it out, it looks nothing like the way it's going to look for the users. So let's see. Multiple choice grid is the kind of thing I would use if I had a series of questions that had the same potential answers, the same A, B, C, D kind of options. So maybe I'm asking for directions. I'm going to say, where is this country um, relative to you? Or I guess if I need to be really specific, relative to Canada. Because I don't want it to be so subjective. If you're, I don't know, in Russia or something, your answers are going to be all different. So the different rows, where are these countries? I can put USA. I can say China, Australia. Ooh. I guess Hawaii is not a country, but I'm going to throw it in there anyway. Japan. There. That would technically be the same. And so for my columns now, I'm going to give it the obvious north, east, south, west. Keep it simple. Now, the grid, as soon as I click away from this question, let me go up to another question. Changes. This is what it's actually going to look like for the users. And this is where I said it used to be a bit ugly. It didn't show you this on this side. You had to come up and preview your form before you ever saw what this was actually going to look like. So it was a bit of a pain that way. But now you can see what's going on here. So each row is its own question, essentially, where I'm going to be able to say for the US, this country is south of us. China is east of us. I guess it depends on which way you go around the world. Australia, Hawaii, Japan, that kind of thing. So I can put in an answer per row, and it's like answering essentially 5 different questions that all have the same potential answers next to them. So this works well with like even say true false. I could ask a series of questions and it's just true false, yes no, up down, whatever it might be. I get to use the same potential responses for a whole different series of different questions. Now, after that, if I add another one, there's also the checkbox grid. Now the checkbox grid, very similar to this, but unlike here where US, I only get to pick one of these potential 4 answers, um, this one for checkboxes, I actually get to pick as many as I want. So what's a good one here? I could say, I'm trying to think of something with maybe animals or I don't know, what's a good one for checkboxes? Things I like to do. Well, let's see if I'm, and where would I be? How about that? Where would I be? I like to do gymnastics. I like to do jujitsu. I like to do some skiing. Whoa. Video games, maybe. We like to do some drawing. I'll leave it at that for now. I don't need to get too deep here. Okay, where might I be for those things? I could be inside, outside, and I could even just leave it at that. Or both. How about this? I'll add one for either. And then I go to away, and as I look at it, gymnastics, I'm going to be inside, jiu-jitsu, probably inside, although I've done it outside before too. Skiing is an outside, video games is generally inside, and drawing, you could do either one. You could go outside and do some life drawing or something. So that's going to allow check, check, check. I guess I wouldn't need an either now that I did check boxes. That's kind of redundant, isn't it? Get away. There. Because the drawing could be either I could go inside check, outside check. And like I said, jiu-jitsu, I've done them both, inside and outside. Whereas the video games, that's always going to be in. Skiing is always going to be out, and gymnastics is likely to be inside. Though I'm sure people could, if I could do jiu-jitsu outside, I'm sure people can do gymnastics outside, do it in the backyard or something. So it all counts, but allows people with the check boxes to check whatever they want. Oh, okay, so good. Here, I hit the new question option, and because I had just selected this question and not this one, as soon as I hit that add question, it inserts it right after the question that I was just on. So if I delete that for a second, I could have moved it, but I just want to show you. If I have selected, say, I don't know, the your name question, and then I go and hit add question, it's going to immediately insert that right below your name. I'm going to drag this now with these little dots that I see at the top center, click and drag down, and just hold it at the bottom edge so it scrolls, and now I can let go. And now I drag that question to the very bottom of my screen. Click this to see what's left. What do we got? Date and time. Okay, so date, I could just ask something simple like, when is your birthday? And it means for the user, they're going to be able to come down and they click and they get a nice little calendar so they can actually put in their birth date that way. And after that, the only question type we have left is time. Now for time, I could say something like, I don't know, how long do you nor normally sleep? And then I look at it and realize, oh, that wants a time. And I just asked a question of how long do you do something? You can have it both ways, one or the other, really. So I can ask a question about like what time do you get up and what time do you go to sleep, and then I could put in, whatever time, 10 o'clock to 7 o'clock. But I can also come down and click here and change it from time to duration. So in this case, when I said how long do you normally sleep, now they can click in there and put 5 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, whatever it might be. So that way I get to pick and choose between the two. I don't believe there's any of those sort of customized options here, except, okay, yes, I can choose to include time as well. So I get a month, day, year, and then the time. I don't believe, can I do just time? Time and turn off year. Yes, I can take off the year. So with birth date, I don't care necessarily how old you are. I just want to know the month and the date, in which case I probably wouldn't use time either. So I can turn both of those off. And now it's just a month day option. So for both the time and the date choices, click these three little dots and see what your options are. There's some things that you can adjust on a few of these, including just adding a description. And this is true of every single question. So whatever it might be, if I came up and found something that was a bit ambiguous, well, favorite color is not very ambiguous. Sure, I'll come into here. Click this one. Oop, where was I? How's your day going? There we go. Click the three dots, choose description, and it adds one line right below the actual question. And you can type as much as you need to in there to help the person out so they understand what it is you're trying to ask them. So here, how is your day going? I can say, let me know how you are feeling about today. And the thing is that when all of these answers get collected on a spreadsheet after the fact, the question you type in ends up being your column header every time, whereas the description doesn't come over to the spreadsheet. So you can write as much as you want in the description. It's not going to ugly up your spreadsheet or create big, huge cells that are wrapping and doing strange things to your formatting. But if your question is super, super long, that's going to show up on the spreadsheet. But that is all the different question types that you can throw in here. So play around with each of them, see what you like, see what's working well for the kinds of forms that you want to create and the kinds of questions you need to ask people, because there's a really good variety of options, but think about them before you use them and choose the best one. I'll say if you're trying to do any kind of statistics on things, if you want little charts and summaries and such, the short answer and paragraph answers are not your friend because it's going to be very difficult to take those and actually quantify things. Whereas if I put in what's your favorite day of the week and then I give them a multiple choice option of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they're going to select that and carry on. If I use a short answer option, somebody might type Monday, somebody might do MON dot, somebody might do lowercase, somebody might do the first day of the week. Who knows? People are weird. But if you give them that open-ended option, it can mess up your data because it makes it a whole lot harder to actually calculate and summarize things. So it just depends on what it is you're trying to accomplish and why you want to collect this data. But take a look at your question types and you can pick the best one for you.